I truly believe that this anime right here could probably cure most salt levels across the world. Those people who are always uptight, angry, or just overly cynical for no reason. You watch a majority of an episode like this, and it's going to melt your heart even if you're an ice-cold bastard. Yes, there's obviously the whole point of our golem friend has a little over a year left in his 1,000-year lifespan. It's very depressing in that sense, but you can't argue that 3/4, if not more, is just pure adorableness, and I love it. Somali in the Forest Spirit is one of those shows that you can just sit back and just mute it and have a great experience. The idea of the background art is some of the best I've seen in a long time, and like I mentioned, I think in my first impressions, the person who worked on the background art, I think this is their first time working in anime, and it does show in a good way, because it allows for this anime to pop in such a way that you look at the character models. We've seen character models similar to this. They're good designs, they're poppy, they really have a unique flair to them, but they feel like anime. But you look at the backgrounds that they're a part of. They definitely mesh in well with them, but the backgrounds are so mysterious, so magical, almost like we're sucked into a fairy tale and we're just looking at the wonders. And because of that, because of how good the backgrounds truly are, we can witness this story unfold. We can watch this little girl cook or clean or do anything. We can watch our golem friend just look into the distance, and every single scene will come alive in such a way that it just feels mesmerizing. And the score in this show is so good. I need to hear the full soundtrack. In a lot of ways, this might be my most anticipated soundtrack of the season, because every single time you really focus in on the music, it feels like a harp is playing or just a small acoustic, something almost like a forest. Like if a forest had a soundtrack, this is what it'd be. And not just your run-of-the-mill forest, something that feels like it's always alive, as if there's a critter running, or just something pure of nature is just in front of us and there's nothing tainted about it. That is clearly the soundtrack's direction, and mixed in with such beautiful imagery with its background, you just can't help but just feel at peace. Like when I first watched episode 1 a couple weeks back there, I actually thought episode 2 was going to come out last week, but since Crunchyroll aired it early, we had to wait a week. When I first watched the first episode, I truly was like, I was having an alright day. I wasn't having a great day, a bad day. It was just kind of like whatever. But then I watched the first episode and I was just like, oh my god, I'm just in peace, tranquility. This is perfect. This show is amazing. And, my allergies are killing me today. And I just watched this episode and I'm just like, oh my god, this show is just so great. I don't care about anything other than this show. I think a series like this could easily just be a golem and a human disguised as a minotaur walking through a forest with no objective. And I think a lot of people would probably still love it, because it's just such a tranquil and peaceful series that you just love looking at, you love hearing, you love seeing the adorable scenes. And as someone who has no interest in kids, I'm like, you know what, kids in anime, don't like them. They're usually pretty damn annoying. Kids in real life, they're very annoying. They just scream and holler. Here, I'm just like, this is perfect and I love it. And the fact that it can make someone who doesn't like kids, and clearly people who have kids, appreciate children, things like that, clearly they're also going to get a kick out of it. The fact that it can bring everyone together and just witness this journey unfold says a hell of a lot about the writing between their relationship, because clearly golems don't have emotion, they don't feel pain, they don't have a heart, they don't act like a human would. That's clearly a key human, and just all the mystical things that we see in this show. Yes, they have it, but golems don't. I have no reason to argue against that. But as we follow this journey, we're seeing more and more sides of this golem that maybe the reason they don't have emotions is because they've lived a life in such a way that has just made them evolve to a point that they don't share that. They probably do have their own version of a heart and things like that, because when he sees Somali look at him in a certain way, be it a positive or negative light, he feels something. He feels something in his chest area, and that's where the heart is. So to me, it kind of feels like the point of this journey, even though it will be a very short one for these characters, the idea is both to find her a place to live, whether it be her actual parents, who most likely have been eaten at this point in time, or just somewhere that she can call home, but also give this golem, before he ends his life, a reason to say, I understand what feelings are. Because it almost feels like, if you kind of take into consideration, whether it be animals or humans, when we are born, just because of natural evolution, we have key characteristics to us that we don't have to think about. You can just literally take a cat off the street and most likely they'll be able to use a litter box, just because that's how most cats are. And I think the idea of the reasons golems are the way that they are, this is just obviously me speculating, is that because they've lived a life guarding forests for 1,000 years. They talk to animals and things like that. They don't have real interactions with humans and things like that. So I'm curious if in a span of a year, this golem could understand feelings, even though that won't change his species. It will be interesting to see if that's the reason, or just the idea that they're going for his character arc, which I think would be fantastic overall. I mean, this show has a really good idea of what it's going for with, like, okay, you're traveling, you're going to see new places, new characters, and you can look at the poster image and get a good idea of who, like, the supporting main cast will be in this anime. But I do like the idea that we're not just sticking to one location, that we are traveling. Like, the idea of this episode was medicine, learning how to make your own medicine, your own ointments, maybe even cook a little, some sweets for Somali. I like the idea of that because it's a very basic idea, but when you really take into consideration what this anime is supposed to be, it's supposed to be beautiful. It's supposed to have a beautiful relationship between this parent and child. It's supposed to be beautiful with its imagery, and the soundtrack is goddamn magnificent, so yes, that is beautiful as well. So to just have her simply scrape her knee and like, okay, we can't bandage it up, it just keeps bleeding, you meet this creature and they're part of a clan where you think, oh, this must be a child like Somali. Nope, it seems like the four-horned ones, they're actually the smarter ones, but they're a lot weaker, and the person that I thought was going to be the parent actually was the assistant. And you get a good understanding, you get more world building, more idea of the creatures that inhabit this planet, while also just having this character learn how to make things, as clearly just wants to be of assistance to her father. Because everything that he does, she really doesn't have to do a hell of a lot, and she just wants to do anything. And whether she has to do it or not is irrelevant. She just wants to be important, and I think that's just so adorable. Especially since the only emotion we truly have between these two is this girl, and she's not emotionally mature. So obviously, we're not going to see that much depth compared to just those two of them. But you introduce two other characters who can recognize what's happening, they can, you know, empathize, they can actually feel like, oh, I actually feel bad for this person, or I find that really adorable. Where with our golem friend, he'll just be like, I wonder why she looked at me like that. And then other characters will be like, are you stupid? Are you really that ignorant? This is why she looked at you that way. And it's just so amazing to watch that play out. And in a lot of ways, I think I enjoyed this episode even more than the first episode, which I thought was just completely captivating and magical. But I just love the idea that the more we see with these characters, the more that we learn about our golem friend. Hell, he takes off the robe and just everything that he is wearing. His body is in a very bad state. I thought he was just, spread to his arm. I was like, oh shit, that's actually pretty bad. But it's his entire body. And how do you tell a little girl who was chained up when we first saw her that I'm going to be gone in a year? Like, that's not a conversation you want to have. So I think logically the golem's in his mind saying, find her a home before I tell her. Because if he was to tell her now, she would just be moping and wouldn't want to travel. Where right now, this is a fun vacation with her father. Like, there's so much to just really look at this series as both being one of the most adorable and can just cure salt levels across the world, while also having this really emotional endgame. And I'm curious with the idea of people studying just the golem's skin or its shell or whatever you want to call it, because curious, is there a way to maybe extend a life to match a human's life or something like that? Is there a way to make a medicine or something? Like, not to just make him immortal or something like that, but just the idea of maybe slowing it down so he can have a more natural life alongside his human daughter, or are they going to completely end it in just, an emotional goodbye on Ohana style? Either way, I'd be completely fine with. It's the only thing that I'd have an issue with is, like, he could just be immortal or something, and then he'd have to watch her die or something. That could be a little like, okay, like, I don't want to see that. I want to see it reversed here. But still, like, I just love the idea that they're going for this, and just, like, you can really just, like, remove the background. The characters are fun, I like looking at them, but add in those backgrounds, this anime becomes something completely original, and you would just, like, mute it. I don't care. I'm still gonna watch this episode. Literally, they could have made this anime a silent film, and I would have loved it. I can think of an anime that is one of my favorites, which is Angel's Egg. There's like 3 lines of dialogue in that, and it's mostly just sound effects and silence. Like, that's all it is, but it is such a captivating story where you create your own narrative with it. Had this just been a silent movie with just music maybe, and just the odd sound effect from animals and things like that, this would have been an amazing experience, as we still could have just made our own narrative, and when we saw her crying at a golem dying, we would understand what was happening. That's the brilliance of it. But the fact that they added in this very humorous side to it, this very slice of life comedy design sequence, it really is something magical. And this is a show that I think even those who maybe aren't the biggest fan of slice of life, or just, those kind of emotional stories where you kind of see the ending coming a mile away, and there definitely is possibilities for a twist for the ending, but a lot of people are probably going to assume it's going to end in heartbreak, and rightfully so. A lot of times those stories, they don't connect with people because they feel like there's no reason to watch because you already know the ending, which I disagree with, but I can understand where people are coming from. But a story like this, you just watch the daily adventures, the daily journey of these characters, and it just melts you. It is so charming, it is so adorable, and you can just have a golem talk to bunnies and then watch Somali and just how she interacts with them, and you can't help but smile and feel like this is just so adorable and sweet. And I haven't felt, this emotionally invested in just like a parent-child relationship since Sweetness and Lightning. That's been a while. So I'm really happy to see the direction they're taking this. I love the idea of how sweet and adorable it is, while giving you that more serious hook and just bringing it up very casually, not like beating you over the head. He'll look at his arm, he'll show characters his skin and shell, whatever you want to call it. Clearly it's sad, clearly we know is going to be bad for her in a very short time. But they don't beat you over the head with that, and they make your focus on her adventures and how she will see things and interact with things, with the odd remark from our golem friend. And I think that's the appropriate way to do it. Don't beat you over the head with sadness and despair, but remind us enough to make sure we never get fully sucked in, being like, oh, there's nothing that could ever go wrong. But just casually kind of giving us a wink and a nudge, being like, well, it can go bad, and it will go bad. Give it time, but for right now, maybe embrace the cooking session, the cleaning session, or just playing with the animals. And I really do appreciate that. There's something just so charming about this show that I think no matter how bad your day will be, you could probably watch this and get a damn kick out of it. Maybe your day will get a little shittier when you realize the golem's gonna die in a year, but I think a good amount of this episode will just perk you right up, or at least I know it has for me for 2 episodes in a row. But what did everyone think, either for fans of the source material or anime originals? What are you thinking about the production with both the background work as well as the soundtrack, and what did you think of the more serious side? I mean, it's pretty insane, I have to say, but let me know your thoughts. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.